Lights, camera, action. Welcome to the Aquaponics group. So what I'll do right now is provide a brief overview of where we are at this juncture with the Open Source Aquaponics Consortium, which has started at the pretty much at the Permaculture Voices 2 conference, where we got a big team of people together, and we're struggling with a way of how to run this project pretty efficiently using crowd collaboration. Now, to summarize what's happened initially, we met a lot of people at the conference with the vision of what we proposed was 2,000 square foot greenhouse, $100,000 worth of production per year, initial prototype 800 square feet for Marcin and Katarina's micro house, an open source experiment at factory farm, then moving on from there while testing all the systems on an 800 square foot scale. The best hope we have for working together on this is micro-tasking. So basically, I'm going to record this screen right now. Okay, so I'm recording the video screen right now. But in the Aquaponics Greenhouse Working Group, we came up with we tried to get the leaders from that event to pretty much pipe up and take leadership positions, but I don't know, the email was too long, nobody really took us on. So what we did with the people that did come onto the table, which was people like Paolo from Aquaponics Lab, another guy Ron Whitehurst, an IPM, Integrated Pest Management guy, Jonathan, myself, and actually Peter McCoy of Radical Mycology joined it. So we had 4 or 5 people working on this. And we're at a point where we want to generate an infographic to inspire people and have a very concise, clear message. Because one thing we found out was when we emailed the people initially, it was just hard to explain everything. So we think that an infographic would do a great job an infographic with a super short explainer video, like 2 minutes, to inspire people to the vision of what this whole thing would look like, while inviting open source people to participate on this with intent of publishing open plans that are absolutely free for anybody to use, with an intent of building 100,000 of these operations that generate $100,000 each within 5 years. It's a $10 billion chunk of the open source economy created. That's a good vision, good place to start, because everybody needs food. And a robust food production system is an excellent project to collaborate on. So lately we've been working on initial design. So like you see here in this document in the Aquaponics Greenhouse Working Team, which I have in my screen. So what we came up with was basic design. Okay, here's the layout of the fish, of all the different crops, including mushrooms. We're still trying to put together a cabinet for growing worms. We actually are thinking of microgreens in there as well. So highly diversified system. And for the implementation in factory farm, that's the building in I'm looking at page 1 of the Aquaponics Greenhouse Concept / Technical Design Google Doc, Google Drawing. There we have, so I can paste that in the link window here, so you can see where I'm looking. But in there it's basically fish, a whole ton of different vegetables, strawberries hanging off the ceiling, there's chickens, bedworms, worms for beds, potentially black soldier fly larvae, potentially mealworms, because we're finding out that about a 2 square foot area can get you about 1.5 pounds of mealworms per week off vegetative matter. There's mushrooms that are planned, basically oyster mushroom, that's a robust, easy to grow crop. Sprouts, against sprout and nursery area, things like that. So the next step in this process is to reach out. In this process, one of the things is that we haven't gotten the full team on board as far as all the expertise that we need on the development team. So with that, we need to get a little more people on the team. But the idea of the consortium is pretty clear. It's that we're getting a core number of practitioners. So the requirement for the consortium is that whoever joins us is a practitioner in some sort of one of the areas of a greenhouse. So for example, I've done hydroponics, done some construction with open source brick press that might be relevant to here, modular construction. Paolo's got aquaponics experience, automation. There's Ron Whitehurst with the integrated pest management. There's Peter with mushroom expertise that he's actually writing a book to open source the kind of work that Paul Stamets has got pretty much closed up. And we need a few more people. So the open source consortium is about getting those people on the team, but the real power of the method is, of course, to crowdsource. So with the core team that sets initial vision, we can create a process that's much more broadly applicable to much more people, so that all the people that want to contribute to open source ecology or just open agriculture in general have a place to do it. So the idea is to, we've already listed a wide number of crops. So I'm going to click on the crops document, and lettuce, towers, arugula, bok choy, spinach, chard, napa cabbage, radish, kale, cabbage, broccoli, radicchio, butterleaf, lettuce, melon, cantaloupe, orange, melon, mustard, basil, watercress, parsley, rosemary, green onions, alyssum, eggplant, cosmos, tomato, various beneficial species, beets, peas, carrots, cucumber, tomatoes, strawberries, mushrooms, fish worms, black soldier fly, aphidolites, midge, Hypoaspis, aureus, nursery area, chickens, eggs, etc. So that's some of the crops we're going to have in there. But basically it turns out that we have a large number of items that now need full technical development. So on one side is the infographic where we summarize this, but on the other side is the actual technical knowledge that allows us to develop each of these crops. So for each one, we have to know things like, okay, does it grow well in aquaponics? What's the time to yield? What are the yields per square foot per week? The growing needs, the cultural practice, what's the seed source, what's the cost of doing that, various other things, including if you're using a particular method of growing, what are all the technical details, like the build procedure of the system, all the costs involved. So basically there's a spreadsheet, right now we have A through Q of different columns. I'll paste that, this is what we're looking at right now, this one. But there's that big spreadsheet, and now the time comes in figuring out, okay, for each of these crops, what are the best aquaponic practices to do that? And we can select a list of several, like towers are a popular concept that has come up, but also what about beds, up to organoponic beds, or gravel beds, or others, or rafts. We want to pretty much document every technique for every crop, and that's a kind of a process that can lend itself to crowd development. So what I would call for is, on the one side, we get a few more of the leaders who are already practitioners of various aquaponic projects, and some other ones that came to my mind actually, and that's a call out to all these other groups, but I've been looking at the other contacts we have along the aquaponics. Right in our backyard in Kansas City is the urban farming guys. They have a real aquaponic system, so we're going to invite those. There's gardenpool.org. They've got a lot of activity going on. There's Ron Finley, who's the hero of LA urban agriculture. Tyler Reed, that's an interesting contact, open source hydroponics. So I'm looking now at the wanted list on the wiki, linked right here. So that's the wanted list. Pete Russell, I contacted him, he's interested in being on a side. The open source Arduino, the Aquaponic APduino people, we should get them involved directly. There's possibly the digital microscope people for like looking at water under a microscope, which is just a $10 conversion of an iPhone. Public Lab might be interested. We need some people on perennial nursery. Various other people. Neil Speckman is actually working on a buried aquaponics greenhouse in Saudi Arabia. There's so that's a person I met at Permaculture Voices. But there's a few other people we can invite to the table out of those and get the leadership team. But on the other side, the crowdsourcing of the individual crops that we're working on right now. So basically, what we want to do right at this point, I think the team here, what we can do is just like we've done, we have a good example with the icons. With the icon team, we basically wrote up a procedure of how a person can generate icons. Even if you have no skills, you can learn Inkscape and then go to actual development. With that said, 50 icons were generated last week, and most of them were by people who were not on the team, the core working team. So this method is working. We can show that if we define a procedure for doing this research, then we can get this crowdsourcing and involve a lot of people. So I would plan on spamming the social networks with this, basically an invitation for other people to get involved. But as the core team here, which we also invite others to join us in, we'd like to perhaps best use of our time would be to generate the procedure for how we go about this research of each crop. So basically, if we can document that on a Google Doc, so that we can show people, and maybe this video can be an introduction, but also maybe a quick couple of minute explainer video. Okay, here's how we do each crop, what we need for each, and then we can spawn a bunch of collaborators doing this remotely. Paulo, what do you think? Can we start on a document to document the development process for others? Any comments on that?
I think that's a good idea. If we can break down
Yeah.
all the tasks, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to